Okay, looks like today is January the 14th, and this is Van Life Update number 14, if I'm looking at the calendar correctly. I'm coming to you from my car because it's the quietest place that I have found today. It's cold outside, so forget that. Now, over the last 2 or 3 days, I've been going through this SWOT analysis, SWOT. I've looked at my strengths, I've looked at my weaknesses, I've looked at opportunities, and today I'm looking at threats to my transitioning into van life. I've got a threats worksheet that I'm working with that I put together with Jordan Peterson and ChatGPT. And it's basically some major points with a few questions thrown in to help guide me into sort of doing an analysis of my threats, of what I perceive as threats to my transitioning into a van. My mission is to hop into a van and travel. And I've got 3 main goals. One is to post YouTube videos from wherever I go. I want to also do live streams from whatever location I seem to be at. Right now I'm live streaming on Tuesdays and Thursdays on my other channel, and I'll continue that from various locations depending on where I am. So I want to be a big presence on social media. I want to post on YouTube. That's one thing. And the other thing is I've also got a channel that is dedicated to my fine art. I am an artist. I have 2 MFA degrees and spent a lot of money and a lot of time, like 7 years, on becoming a professional artist. And so I need to get back to my painting and drawing. And I want to do that while I'm on the road. And the third goal is to continue to self-publish on Amazon. I have 50 plus books already published on Amazon through the KDP self-publishing program, and I'm going to continue to do that. So that's my mission. That's my goal. I'm not just going to get in a van and travel, but I'm going to make it a mission. I've got something I've got to accomplish, and those are the 3 things I want to do. So the SWOT analysis is giving me a foundation to work from. It's giving me a look at what my strengths and weaknesses are and what opportunities I may come across. And today we're looking at threats. What's going to keep me from accomplishing my goals? Well, Jordan Peterson would say that ignoring our threats doesn't make us brave, but we need to write them down. We need to name them. That way we have some responsibility. He would frame it as a part of your mission, as a part of your goal. So if you're working on some sort of a project or have some sort of a mission, then you've got to do an analysis of your threats. You've got to look at those things that are going to be barriers to you succeeding. And he's going to give us some points here. Number 1, identify what he would call the real dragons. Peterson uses this metaphor for dragons a lot because it's dealing with fantasy. And threats are actually reality. They need to be seen as reality, not fantasy. It's those things that actually have the ability to stop you. They are barriers. It's not what might happen. I mean, I could drop dead. That might happen. But what will actually happen, or what is most likely to happen? Those are the things we're looking at. And it's also looking at what has happened before. We can look at our history and determine what has happened to us in the past, and it may give us some idea of what threats we're looking at. So for me, I identified there were 2 major dragons that I've got to slay. One of them is finances. I don't have a retirement. I don't have a whole lot of savings. The cancer that I went through 2 or 3 years ago, the skin cancer, sort of wiped me out financially. And so I'm sort of building back from scratch, and I'm starting basically with nothing. So I've got that dragon to deal with. Finances really can stop me. That is a real threat that I have to deal with. And the other one is, of course, my health, because I'm getting older. I'm not as young as I used to be, you know. I'm 67 years old. Now, while I'm healthy at the moment, things can change practically overnight. Having cancer will do that to you. It will give you the reality that your health can take a nosedive real quickly. So what I want to do is make my health a real priority, a real goal in the coming days. I'm going to start eating better. I've got to get back to exercising. I've got to get into shape before I hit the road. So my health and finances, those are the two dragons that I identified. Number two, not only should we identify those dragons, but number two, we need to treat those threats like engineering problems. They're not moral failures. It's not that I'm weak, or that, oh, poor me, I don't have any money, or oh, poor me, I'm old and I'm decrepit and I'm gonna drop dead at any moment. No, it's not that, but it's what systems can I put in place to help me slay those dragons? What can I do from a systems standpoint to help get rid of those major threats? For example, money stress. You got to look at multiple income streams. I've got to look at ways to raise and earn money. As far as my health, I've got to eat better, I've got to exercise, I've got to pace myself, and I've got to build in some regular times of rest and recovery. So health is going to be an important part of that as well. So treat threats like an engineering problem, something that can be solved. Number three, prepare for boredom. Jordan Peterson says that boredom is the number one cause of people not accomplishing their dreams or accomplishing their projects. They get tired, they give up. Things don't go well, and so they give up too quickly. He says that boredom can be handled by repetition, slow growth, and being able to deal with those days of quiet where things don't seem to be going so well. If you struggle with staying in one project or one goal because you get bored easily like I do, you've got to counter that with routine. You've got to counter that with establishing small goals, and you want to track your progress. So that tells me, looking at my history and looking at my past, that I do get bored easily. I hop onto a project and I get bored and I move on to another one. I quit one project and start another one. I come up with some idea and play with it for a while, then I give up and go on to something else. Well, to handle that, you have to have a certain amount of commitment, and you've got to stick with it. You've got to stick with your idea. You've got to stick with your project. You've got to stick with your mission. Regardless of what happens, regardless of the outcome and how slow things progress, you've got to stick with it. So it comes with slow growth and repetition and routine and accomplishing small goals. All right, number four. In terms of YouTube and social media, the algorithm is not your judge. The algorithm is not my enemy. I've got to understand that views and likes and comments are not my scoreboard. I've got to be my own self-worth scoreboard. I'm not going to allow some computer to tell me I am worthy or that I deserve to be successful. So, my only metric for when I'm producing videos for YouTube or I'm showing up on social media is my commitment and my consistency, and I've got to ask myself, did I show up today? Regardless of the results, did I show up today? Number five, pride and despair. Those can be threats, pride and despair. Peterson talks about this and how pride and despair can kill your progress. A person who's proud says, well, I'm special and I shouldn't struggle. But despair says it's pointless, I should quit. Both of those can be killers. So in order to protect yourself against either pride or despair, you've got to have humility and you've got to have some persistence. It will humble you quickly when you start looking at your weaknesses. So, humility, persistence. You got to take on a fighting attitude. I've got to be a fighter. Number 6, my biggest threat is not money, not health, not posting on YouTube, but it's discouragement. Based on what I have said and worked through over the last few days, it occurs to me, and I'm getting some feedback here from this material, that my biggest threat seems to be discouragement, because success comes slowly on YouTube. And you get to the point where you start thinking, okay, I posted a video and it gets 3 views. It's been sitting there for a month and it's got 3 views. Or I don't get any subs. What's going on? I've got a channel that seems dead. I'm doing all of this work and nothing is happening. You get discouraged. It's this slow drip, and you start asking yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I wasting this time? No one cares. No one likes me. No one is watching me. Or you might say, this is so stupid. I need to find something else to do. Peterson would say that voice is lying to you. Your job is to ignore it, show up for work, and keep going. Persistence. So, to recap, before we get to number 7, remember number 1 was identify those dragons, write them down, voice them, tell other people about your threats, make them real. Treat those threats like engineering problems, things that can be worked out. Prepare for boredom, because that's going to be a major killer. The algorithm is not going to judge my performance on YouTube. The algorithm is not my enemy. It's a computer. Basically, just a bunch of computer parts. Pride and despair. I've got to stay humble. I've got to stay persistent. And I can't let pride and despair get in the way. And I can't be discouraged. That's number 6. My biggest threat is discouragement. I've got to keep going. Got to stay positive. Number 7, the last one, is integrate the threat into the purpose. Integrate your threat into your mission. You don't avoid threats. You walk toward them prepared, because you've done the work ahead of time. You know what's possible, what may come, and you prepare yourself to meet them head on. So integrate your threat into a purpose, into your mission. Integrate them into your mission. You're basically going to look in the mirror and say, I'm going to keep going, regardless. We're just going to keep going. To wrap things up, the Peterson style summary here: threats are inevitable. So the Peter style summary here is threats are inevitable. They are going to happen. They will be there. They're manageable, and they can teach us. They can teach us about ourselves. And we don't conquer these threats all at once. It takes time and takes effort to slay a dragon. I also came across this idea while I was working through this material about fear and wisdom. And Peterson said something about how sometimes fear masquerades as wisdom. And I really didn't understand what he meant by that. What does it mean that fear masquerades as wisdom? Well, it means to tell yourself a story that sounds great. It sounds smart and reasonable and mature, but underneath it all is just fear. It's fear in a clever disguise. Fear puts on a face and calls itself wisdom. It fools you into thinking what you're thinking and what you're saying about a certain problem is really smart, really makes sense, really reasonable. But it's actually fear. What it looks like in real life, here are some examples. Fear says, I'm just being realistic. What do you mean buy a van and hit the road? That's not realistic. That's probably not worth trying. That's what fear says. Fear is saying, I don't want to waste time. Fear says, I'm too old. I'm too decrepit. I may drop dead at any moment. That's fear. Fear says, let's not rock the boat. Let's do what other people are doing. Let's not be unique. All of those sound wise, and at certain points, in some cases, they may be wise. Sometimes they are even smart. But sometimes they're just fear. Fear will ask, what if this doesn't go right? What if something goes wrong? That's what fear will say. What if I can't raise the money? What if I have a health issue down the road? A fear disguised as wisdom thought might sound like something like this, since I do a lot of live streaming. This is what fear would say. Live streams aren't worth it. Nobody's watching. Or maybe I shouldn't commit to anything in the long term. I'll wait until I'm more ready. That's what fear would say. I'll wait. I'll put things off until I'm ready. But in reality, instead of saying live streams aren't worth it, I may be saying I'm just really embarrassed by the low numbers. I'm trying to avoid the discomfort of not getting any subs or growing my channel. Maybe instead of saying I don't want to commit to something long term, maybe commitment scares me. I don't know. Could be. Peterson's angle, his last point, be careful not to confuse caution with cowardice. Real wisdom considers risk, but still moves forward. Real wisdom considers risk, but still shows up. Fear finds perfect reasons and will go nowhere. Fear will find perfect reasons to stay put, to stay still forever. So the simple test is this. When you hesitate, ask yourself, am I choosing this because it's wise or because it feels safe? Am I doing this because it's wise or because it feels safe? Sometimes safety is smart, but sometimes safety can be a cage.